Okay, guys, so I've decided to do a wee show today, just a 5-10 minute thing. How to successfully handle offers on your property, because we always get offers quite quickly now, and we sometimes get multiple offers as well. So these are the common questions we get asked from homeowners selling a home with us, and how should I respond to offers? So in this post up here, are 5 pointers you need to consider when deciding whether it's an offer too good to refuse or one to walk away from. Firstly, I would say an accurate, priced and well-marketed property usually gets offers quickly. The ideal scenario in here is people want your property so much that they'll offer over the asking price in this current market, and it's often the case. But also, more importantly, they'll agree to your terms of entry in terms of being flexible enough to allow you to find your next place. There seems to be a stalemate in the market just now, so we're calling it sort of the board stalemate, for sale board stalemate position, and it's the for sale board crunch, really. This is what we're calling it, just to take a coin of phrase from the credit crunch. So we're calling it that. And the ideal scenario is people want to make so much for your property, they'll offer that way over the asking price, way over the home report value, but they will agree to your terms of entry, your entry date as well as other significant important parts for yourself. If buyers are competing for your property, this will drive the price up even more. However, there's 5 factors to consider aside from which the buyer is willing to pay the most as well. So the first one here is their situation. So let me talk about that again. A good agent will give you as much information as possible about the people making the offer. Probably examples of that are: do they have a property to sell? Will they be in a chain if they did? Are they cash buyers? Now, there's a difference here between a cash buyer, what most people say, and also when we qualify them and they then say, oh, well, I've got a mortgage to get. Well, that's not technically a cash buyer because you've still got a mortgage to arrange, which will take a lot longer than being a cash buyer with money in the bank. So there is a difference when people say cash buyer. First thing we'll do straight away is we will just qualify them and say, so is that actually cash in the bank then? And you do get the response sometimes where they will say that, well, I've got money in the bank for the deposit, but I've still got the mortgage to arrange as well, but I've got nothing to sell, so that makes me a cash buyer. Yeah, technically, once you get the money from the bank, but then we still have to understand that you can only be as quick as what the bank takes to arrange your mortgage. So there's a subtle difference between the position of a cash buyer and a cash and mortgage buyer, because it might take a wee bit longer to get that. So these are things, the situation is probably the most important one, and also entry date for them. When will they be available to get that cash? It might be the case that they might have to give notice of 3 months to get their cash out of the bank, because maybe it's in a deposit account or an income generating account. It might need notice period to get that. So probably that's the most important one for us, is that the situation of the buyer themselves. It is really important that you understand that and know that before you accept an offer from a buyer. Now, the second one I thought about was, and we get asked, is do they have a mortgage offer already approved? The ideal buyer is a cash one. No matter what you're told, your ideal buyer is a cash one at this point in time, because a cash one is more likely to be in either rented accommodation, because they've got somewhere already to stay, so they can be flexible with your entry date, or they are potentially don't need to sell to buy, if that makes sense. So they can actually buy with cash as well. And then they can sell their house. So that's your probably, and then again, if they don't need to sell to buy, they have the flexibility. They can wait for your entry date to come along for you to find your next house before they actually move out of their existing house and then put that on the market. So they do they have a mortgage offer already approved? If they do have a mortgage, ideal ones are cash buyers, as I said, but these are actually, they're quite rare. We do get them. We do get them, but we get them quite a lot actually. The money's already there. The scenario often sees the whole process taking far less time to complete as well if they're a cash buyer. because they're not reliant on anything else except the legal process to go through that. Probably the third one here, and this is probably quite an important one, because I know you would like this yourself. As a seller in the current market, you're in a strong position, but always treat the buyer the way you'd like to be treated as well. A little respect goes a long way with both parties involved. It's key here. Now, as an estate agent, our job is to make sure both parties are happy in the transaction. Now, we act on the seller's behalf, clearly, to get the best price, to get the best circumstances, but also we want to make sure that there's nothing that could frustrate that sale further down the line. So it's about qualifying in the beginning to make sure that everything's in place. So we don't find out at the last minute, well, by the way, I've still got to go and run and get our mortgage to arrange. Well, we should have known that in the beginning. And we do ask these questions for that reason. So if you're on with an estate agent just now, just make sure when you get an offer, you qualify them and make sure that the whatever they say, they've got something to back it up. Probably one that happened recently. Seller, current market, strong position. We agreed to a 12-month entry date. But because we felt that the entry date could go for 11 months and then suddenly they'd go, well, I've changed my mind. We insisted that as part of that deal to get the 12-month entry date, they pay a non-refundable deposit of $10,000, and they also conclude missives within a certain period to ensure, and at that point we will then take the house off the market if they're agreeing to that, because you don't want to keep a house off the market for 11 months and then find out at the last minute that they're pulling out. So you've got all these things in place to make sure you qualify and make sure you actually keep your seller's property in a good position. The fourth one here, I would say, is the offer. Part of the property process is where a good estate agent really proves their value. The offer part is really key here. And this is where most people buy our services. You know, anybody could sell a house, to be honest. You could sell it privately if you want. You can put it on any website for £99. You can go through some of these doorsteps.co.uk, for example. You can get on Rightmove, you can get on Zoopla. But what do you do when it comes to the qualification process and asking the questions about the buyer? What do you do when it comes to the negotiation process about, knowing the circumstances and saying, okay, can you go higher? And not everybody has that. Not everybody has that character to be able to say that. And then how do you know that price that you're getting offered is the actual highest price available? That's another key thing out of it. So most people will buy us for our skill involved in that process and negotiation, and actually our digital marketing approach. That's the two key elements that people will buy our services for, and that's or there's, as I said, anybody can put a house in the market for sale, but it's these key elements that will get you the most money. It'll get you the best entry date and also the best terms, and I'll actually keep that distance so it doesn't become abrasive between buyer and seller when negotiation becomes a bit difficult, because one party maybe isn't as good as the other party at negotiating. Keep everybody happy in the process to make sure it happens for you as a seller. That's really what it comes down to. So a little respect goes a long way with both parties. And probably the next one, the offer process, as I said, I was on there. So you have a good relationship with them, means you're in constant contact and you feel totally informed of what's happened. They're negotiating on your behalf. So your estate agent negotiates on your behalf. Probably finally the fifth one for me. Remember that accepting an offer is just another part of the process. And there are a few more hurdles to overcome in terms of surveys and conveyancing. Again, a good estate agent will help you navigate through from selling to sold. Now, what I mean by that, so a good estate agent puts you on the market. They market your property. They get the offer. The offer that you can't refuse. It's like blows your mind. It's like, wow, that's an unbelievable offer. Never in a million years did I think I was going to get that offer. And, you accept that. And also, to go in line with that as well, you get the exact entry date you want, or flexible terms in your entry date. They're prepared to wait You know, they don't need to buy and sell. They're in their own accommodation just now, so they can actually wait for you to find your next place. That's probably your ideal scenario, because it gives you that comfort and gives you that peace of mind and that stress-free route. But the key here is that's fine. Once that's sold, then it goes subject to concluded missives. You'll see that in most of any sold, or under offer is another classic example. By the way, if a property is under offer, or if it's actually sold subject to concluded missives, and it was a property you missed out on, always note your interest anyway, just in case it changes, because you never know. If it does, you'll be next in line. They'll come straight to you, because often it doesn't go back on the market. They just go straight to the other people online. So if you do have a property that you have in mind that's under offer or sold just now, always register with that estate agent anyway, just in case something happens to it, if it's one you really like, but you obviously missed out on. That's a wee top tip. So the conveyancing process, once it's sold, an estate agent, most estate agents actually just say, right, that's it sold, over to the solicitor. They can take care of it from then on. They can do the conveyancing part, but we still progress chase that all the way through. So over the next 2 or 3 months when the conveyancing process is going through, we'll just double check every now and again, probably every couple of weeks, to make sure that everything's still on track as it should be, and actually ask the solicitor to tell us when missives are concluded, and push to that point to where missives are concluded. Once missives are concluded, it means you've struck a bargain and both parties can't back out then. That's it been done. And then from missives concluded, that's when the exchange takes place. At the days the keys are handed over, and money's exchanged as well. So that's the 5th one, I would say. And as I said, it's all on this post above me here in a wee bit more detail. So again, a good estate agent will help you navigate through from the on the market to the selling to the sold to the concluded missives to the actual handover, the keys completion. And that's it. If you'd like a no pressure expert assessment on what your property could sell for in this current market, more than happy to do that. Just contact me direct here, message me direct, or you can contact, we're putting the link up there again as well. I'll link to all our office pages, and you can contact us in there from email as well. Messenger seems to be easy, because it's like a 24/7 thing to us anyway, because we're always on Messenger. So it's an easy process for you. And until next time, guys, I'm Jim Parker for 5